Good morning, Dawgpound South campers. It's Saturday, March 23rd. This is the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Good Saturday morning. I know you'll be watching basketball. I will. So the only thing, like I said, SEC teams tend to be a little overrated. Thank you, Auburn, for making all those Yale students happy. So, moving on, Browns news. There's been a lot of debate of the choice of Jameis Winston over Joe Flacco. And quotes are coming out. Joe Flacco did a autograph picture session that was scheduled way in advance, which is great. Fans can go out and get his signature, and Browns fans can meet him. It's fantastic, love it. But he was asked a question about being a mentor to Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, and here's what he said: "I don't believe that's the role of a backup quarterback. I've proven to be a good teammate, but I'm not going to hold people's hands." Some veteran quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers comes to mind, feel that way. That it's not their responsibility to make sure the guy that they're the younger quarterback knows how to play the game. They constantly use the phrase, "Well, I lead by example." As I remember, a lot of people were getting on Myles Garrett because he wasn't a vocal leader, but he always said, "Well, I lead by, my play says it all." Well, here's Joe Flacco telling Indianapolis fans, which I know a few, "Hey, it's not my job. My job is to get ready to start." And that's a great mentality to have. He's a starter, so boom. But let's compare that to what Jameis Winston said in an interview about being Deshaun Watson's backup. The most important thing, I believe, is the relationship between me and Deshaun is in a place where it will continue to grow and flourish. That sounds like a backup quarterback. Now, there are guys out there in the league who thrive on being a backup quarterback, and they've made a damn good living just doing that. They keep getting that 1-year deal. They keep making money year after year after year. That's great. They found their niche. Once you find your path in life, you stick to it. You can make a lot of money. I used to tell people, they'd have kids and they'd say, "Well, I want him to grow up to be a football player, running back, wide receiver, defensive end." And I'd always say, teach him how to be a long snapper. A long snapper is one of the most valuable players on a roster. First of all, there's only one. Second of all, they usually don't have one on the practice squad. I have not seen some team put a long snapper. And three, if they're very good at what they do, they will have a long NFL career. And that's the way it goes with backup quarterbacks. Jameis Winston has accepted his role as backup quarterback. I'm going to continue this little discussion after these breaks. These will be added later. Okay. It's interesting to me that in a video showing Jameis Winston walking around the facility, and personally, I like the kid. I really do. I mean, how can you not like this guy? Even Tony Grossi, who hated this move, hated it after hearing him talk to the media, after hearing him take questions, after hearing all the interviews, has turned around and said, this is the guy that's right to be a backup for Deshaun Watson. This is a cultural move. That's what he said Thursday on 8:50. He said this was a cultural move. So if you can convince Tony Grossi that to change his mind on something, congratulations, Jameis Winston. You did a hell of a good job. So this is some people noticed on Twitter and X or whatever the hell you want to call it that when Jameis Winston's hugging Andrew Berry as he's going in his office, there's a whiteboard behind him. And, we always remember the famous incident, the pre-draft news conference that John Dorsey had, and they opened the door and there was their entire draft, all their players that are interested on a whiteboard, and somebody caught a picture of it. Well, the video caught a picture of this. And it's a quote from Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, who Andrew Berry learned from. And here's the quote: "To win a Super Bowl, you either have to have the best players, i.e. Tom Brady, or make a decision that could cost you your job." So I want Browns fans to realize this. If you're wondering what Andrew Berry's thinking, if you're wondering what he's doing, if you're wondering his train of thought, he looks at that quote every day. That's his quote. That's what he's trying to do. He knows he's going to make tough decisions. Everybody makes tough decisions in life. But he knows that either you got to have a great player or you've got to make a decision that's going to cost you your job. And he sees that every day. That's fantastic. I like quotes. I can be annoying sometimes with my quotes. 4 years ago when COVID was rampant, and I was kind of being very cautious. I mean, social distancing wasn't new to me. I'd been doing it for decades because, frankly, some people just drive me insane. But I was doing the mask, I was doing the vaccines, and I had all these youngins coming up to me and saying, you shouldn't fear death. And I'd look them right in the eye and tell them the quote, a favorite quote of mine by Woody Allen: "I don't fear death. I just don't want to be there when it happens." So quotes can help. There's also another quote that I always live by, and this was one that is kind of what I think about every day. It was a quote from Admiral Bull Halsey. Now, Admiral Bull Halsey created the current aircraft carrier fleets in the U.S. Navy. Prior to Pearl Harbor, it was all battleship groups. He, after they had lost the battleships in the attack on Pearl Harbor, he turned it to realizing that air power was more important for naval superiority. So he created the aircraft carrier groups. And his quote is, "There are no extraordinary people. There are extraordinary events that normal people respond to." And that's how I live my life. So as you think about going into the season, as you think about what Andrew Berry is going to do or what he's thinking, think about that quote. Let me say it again. To win a Super Bowl, you either have to have the best players, i.e. Tom Brady, or make the decision that could cost you your job. So thanks for joining me early this Saturday morning. This has been the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Thank you for following, listening, and watching. And remember, enjoy the basketball games today and go Browns.